Welcome, everyone, to Java as a Second Language. I'm Arnie Buss. I will be uh, leading the proceedings this quarter. Um, and see, I think we're still missing one, but uh, so you're all here, which means you got the memo, and we will be meeting at this hour, Monday through Thursday. And on Friday, they have rather sadistically scheduled the lab from 8 to 9. So I'm not a morning person, just so you know. Again, I'm Arnie Buss. I've been an instructor here at MOVES. I'm a research associate professor. I've been in MOVES since 2002. I've been in NPS since 1994. And I guess I'm a slow learner, so they're going to have to kind of drag me out kicking and screaming because I love this place. Anyway, you are here today because we are going to be learning Java as a second language, as the title promises. The second language part means that you have already had experience with at least one other programming language. So when it comes to many of the basics, I'm going to assume that you have at least seen those in another language. And so the advantage of that is that instead of learning a lot of these concepts, the basic programming concepts from scratch, it's simply a matter of taking what you already know and applying it to a new language. For a variety of reasons, Java is not necessarily the ideal language to begin with. One of the reasons is that it's a little bit, there are some features of the language that make it quite valuable for certain programming tasks. And those features which make it most valuable are ones which can get in the way of learning a brand new programming language if you're new to programming. However, you're all experienced programmers, right? So yeah, and so we're going to start there. So today is just going to be kind of an overview, and then I'm going to throw you in the water a bit. The only way to learn programming is to program. What a concept. So you're not going to learn program from me or anybody else talking at you. Hopefully that helps a bit. So, but really where the rubber meets the road is when you program. So one of the first challenges is the first step of just getting the thing going. And what one of the problems is that up until a couple years ago, Java and the associated tools were freely available from the source. And the source was originally Sun Microsystems came out with Java in the mid 1990s. But Sun went belly up and was sort of bought out by Oracle. And so Oracle took over Java, and they also allowed it to be freely available, again, without support, up until a couple of years ago when they kind of tightened they decided they wanted to monetize it more or something like that. So what we will be using is an open source version of that. So thankfully what they did was there was so much investment, intellectual investment in Java that there was a strong pressure to maintain an open source, freely available version. And that's what we will be using. Okay, so now, loath as I am to do death by PowerPoint, nevertheless, that's what we're going to do for a little bit. And also, just as an initial source of information, all of this is due to the pandemic and all that. We're going to be on Zoom for this course. And that's just what it is. So you've been doing that for a little bit. So hopefully we're all more or less used to that. I will be recording the sessions and uploading a video to that. There'll be links to that. I also will have some videos that will help you get started on really the first and most challenging task, which is to just get all of the tools in place. But okay, so we'll get to that. But I'm going to share my screen now and see if I can find this PowerPoint. Okay, there we are. Okay, so today is just going to be an overview of the course. So I'll walk you through the Sakai site. We'll kind of look at the syllabus and identify required software. So what I will try to do is just make it clear with each of the classes about what the takeaway is. And I want to make the takeaways from each class to be as concrete as possible. So after this class, you should be able to log into the Sakai site, identify the different sections that I'll be walking through, and then to be able to download and install the required software. And there's going to be a handout for that. That's actually the first assignment, which is to download, install the required software, do a hello world, which is always the first program, and then the final little little piece, which may be a bit more challenging, is to create a GitLab repository and connect that with your local code. Again, the assignment walks you all through that, and there are also videos for that. Okay, so an overview of the Sakai site, and just in just a minute, I'll bounce out of the PowerPoint and take you to the site. But just the main ones there. There's a syllabus which will, which is just the overview of the course. I think you've all been students long enough to that you know what the syllabus is. And then the various tabs that are really going to be the important one. There's one called Lessons, which is just going to be an overview. Resources, which will occasionally have additional handouts. Currently, the main thing there are going to be the slides. So copies of all these PowerPoints are going to be uploaded there. There's a tab for assignments. Again, that's going to be an important one to just identify. There are going to be a lot of assignments, and what I've tried to do for this iteration is kind of break things down a little more. In the past, what I've done is had roughly one computer assignment a week. What that wound up doing, or the feedback I got on that was that they tended to be a little more challenging and time consuming than was meeting my objectives for your education here. So what I've done this time is there will be more assignments that'll be a little bit smaller. So they're roughly going to be about 2 a week. Starting today. But again, the first assignment is just really to get all the software in place, and the biggest challenge is going to be this GitLab thing. There's also going to be a link to tests and quizzes on the Sakai site, and I'll show you what that is. One thing, just to make sure that we're staying current with the readings, and I'll talk about the book, the text in just a little bit, is that on Fridays, the first thing Friday at 8 a.m., there's going to be a Sakai quiz, which is going to be exclusively true, false, and multiple choice based only on the readings. And it's just to make sure that we're all staying current with that. There are going to be a bunch of these, and you know, they're only going to count for a little bit, but again, it's just something to keep up with all the readings, and the video channel for the course. Required software. So as I said, Java is actually owned by Oracle. but there is an open source Java development kit called OpenJDK. And now installing OpenJDK from the bare metal is a bit tricky. And so there's a group called Adopt OpenJDK, which has installers for everyone. That's the one I recommend because it's just, you all know how to install something. So it's just a matter of doing that. We will be using, there are several versions of Java out there. We'll be using versions 11. In terms of what we cover, Java is actually a huge programming language. We will hardly be covering the breadth of it. There have been additional features that they've added. In my opinion, it's that they've made it feature bloat. Fortunately, that Java is itself such an efficient language that despite all the other, despite the feature bloat, it doesn't seem to impact the execution of it. So we will mostly be actually using nothing greater than Java. Anything that's been developed after Java 8 is something that we won't be touching in this course. There are lots of really cool things between version 8 and version 11 that are out there, but we won't be covering it because again, this is really a first course in Java for all of you, even though it's not the first programming course. The IDE we will be using is Apache NetBeans. Again, this is something where it had been owned by Oracle and they actually just offloaded the whole thing to the Apache project, and we'll be using version 12.12. Okay, so and after we leave here, after I let you go, there's going to be the very first assignment, which is just kind of getting things set up in the hello world. I'm giving you a few days on that because in many respects, just getting things going can often be the most challenging thing. So that's why Hello World exists, and that's why, well, without the tools, it's difficult to learn programming if you're not actually programming. So the idea is to get you programming. Now, the text that we have is called Thinking in Java. We will be using edition 4. There is an edition 3 that you can download for free as a PDF. You should be that should be sufficient for our purposes, but if you decide to go that route, any differences are kind of more or less on you. So just be warned on that. And so for tomorrow, the reading I'm going to ask you to do is to be through and including the introduction to objects chapter, and there's through and including a section called inheritance. Okay, so let's I'm going to stop the share on that. Let me just share this. This is what the book looks like. So if you haven't, I mean, hopefully in the Python, names are confusing. There's a Python programming language, and then there's the Python thing for NPS. So in the Python thing, it should have listed this as the required text. So, okay, there's that. Let's see. Okay, sorry, I'm just, all right. Well, have you used NetBeans? Let me ask you this. I mean, have you used NetBeans previous to this? Anybody?
We used it a little bit in JavaScript for.
Oh, so you have it installed actually?
I think we did 11.2, so we should have the older one. So if we're going to use 12 or whatever, we're one version behind, I think. 12.1.
If you have NetBeans 11, that should be sufficient. So don't, and what do you remember what Java version it was using? Does anybody not have that?
We're not, I wouldn't say we're very familiar with it. We use it for a networking project that we did.
Right.
Just turned it on and let it run in the background. And maybe some of the guys got a little more into it, but it was a little bit of struggle to get the thing going.
Yeah, that's, okay, so, all right, so let's, I'm going to go to the Sakai site here and just kind of walk you through that a little bit if I can find it. Okay. So this is the Sakai site. When you come on here, the overview is, again, now my assumptions, again, one of my assumptions was that you already know a programming language, which is not Java. My other assumption is that by the time you get to graduate school, you do know how to read. So I'm not going to, read all this stuff. But the main conceptual idea that in addition to Java, so the two big objectives of this are, well, first to get you to the point where you're familiar enough with Java so that if you're faced with a task, a programming task that involves that will be solved using Java, that you will be able to meet that task and get to the finish line with it without a lot of fancy stuff. Now, some of you are, kind of wizards at programming. Some of you are a little newer at programming. So my goal is that for somebody, even if you're relatively new to programming, that Java will be a tool in your toolkit. Again, it is not, why do we have so many different programming languages? Because each is appropriate to certain types of tasks. There are, I am involved currently in a number of projects that at least one of which was I was brought on board because the previous programming language that it had been implemented in just was not capable of meeting their needs. And so they brought me in and said, okay, here's what we want. We have this program and it does this, but it needs to be in Java. So that's one of the projects that I have. So point is, why Java? Java is, well, if you're doing object-oriented programming, and that's the second big takeaway from this, is to understand and be able to implement an object-oriented design. I mean, that is such an important concept. It's not the only one. It's not the only way to approach programming, but it is a very important one. Okay, so object-oriented programming. So here's the site. Every now and then there might be an announcement, but okay, on the syllabus is just sort of the main information. This is where I am when I'm Watkins 380, when I'm not in my room as I am now. So if we ever get back on campus, that's where you can find me. My email, you won't be able to reach me at this phone number because that's my office, but I'll put my cell in there, so just in case you have to contact me an emergency. So our lectures are going to be Monday through Thursday, 9 to 9:50. You're here, so you know that. And then Friday, the labs are at 8 to 9:50. Again, on the labs, well, I'll talk more about that as they approach, but those will mostly be kind of more self-directed. I will try not to talk at you too much. Okay, so this is a first course in a second language. And the idea is, again, to use both the procedural and object-oriented language features of Java, mostly the object-oriented ones. Java is actually a pure object-oriented or a fairly pure object-oriented program. It's like 99% pure. So like that soap from way back when. Okay. So, main objectives, object-oriented skills it's a mindset, and Java is not the only object-oriented programming language. Just as another example, Python is another very popular language. where you can do different styles, but I have done a fairly extensive programming in Python using an object-oriented framework, so it can be done. So basically, yeah, I mean, all of these are to put Java in your toolkit as something where you can use it to solve a kind of problem that may arise. Okay, so format: 4 lectures, a 2-hour lab session. So depending on how the lectures go, sometimes I might steal some time from the labs to talk at you some more if I feel that there's something to be gained from that. Whether you think there's something to be gained from my talking at you is at least until the end of the quarter. You just keep that to yourself. But that's okay. So, but basically, you learn programming by doing it. I mean, that's I'll try to emphasize that as much as possible. Okay, so again, we're gonna cover a portion of the text. Again, the text is there's too much in the text to cover in 1 quarter. One thing that will probably be interesting. Okay, let's talk about the assessment. So we're gonna have these quizzes. These quizzes are gonna be these online things that typically last like 10 minutes or so. They'll typically have like 10 true, false, or multiple choice questions just based on the straightforward material. I mean, that's just sort of the baseline information for that. Hopefully that will be roughly at the level of a BuzzFeed survey. Now between the in-lab work and the computer assignments, about 20%, there's going to be there's going to be kind of a capstone project towards the end that'll hopefully put it all together. That's going to count for a fair amount. I have some angst about this, but I'm kind of, how should I say, I'm more or less forced to give you grades. The computer science department, which is sort of taken over moves, has a policy that I'm only allowed to give 20% A's in the course. I really don't like that, but that kind of almost forces me into giving exams. I don't like that, but I'm going to be doing it. So there's going to be a midterm and a final for a total of 40% equally divided there. Okay, any questions so far? You can unmute yourself and speak. And actually, unmute, you can, if you have a question, unmute yourself and just speak up. I'm absolutely fine with that. Okay, so presumably you know how to use a computer. That's and find the Sakai site. And okay, so here are a couple of, here's one place where you can link to the downloads of that. Again, the textbook, other sources. There are Java tutorials that are sometimes useful. There are other introductions to programming. You all know how to use Google. Just be careful with that, because there's just because something's on the internet doesn't mean it's correct. Okay, so basically all the rest that's fairly straightforward. So let me just sort of finish up here. So resources, again, currently the main one is a folder with slides. Again, so after each one of these, I'll upload the slide. Actually, hopefully before each class, there'll be a link to the slides so you can kind of see that. Discussion forums. I will be checking that periodically. If you have a question, I'm not sure if that's even set up. So anyway, okay, this is an important one. Assignments. So there's currently, you see the first computer assignment, and it's just to establish the programming tools that we need, the Java development kit, adopt OpenJDK, NetBeans, GitLab. let me ask you this: has anybody not used GitLab in a previous course? Most of you. Okay. All right. So this is an extremely valuable tool. In your subsequent courses, I think they will use that in one extent or another. Those of you who will go on to take the discrete event simulation course, we will be using GitLab in that as well. It is an absolutely critical and invaluable tool for any kind of coding whatsoever. Not so well. Git itself is the most popular one these days. There are many different version control systems, but Git is kind of the one that most open source projects use these days, and it's tricky. It's a little tricky, but I kind of walk you through how to do that. Now, there are, in addition to fairly detailed handout, there are videos, and I have the links here. And so, for example, if you use Windows, then this video is me walking through the assignment, the first part of the assignment. And let's see. Can you all see that? And there's also, okay, so what do you? Let's see. There we are. Okay, there's one for Windows and one for Mac. The reason for that is that there are just slightly different issues with each, as I discovered. Again, if you have NetBeans 11 installed and you're comfortable with that, that's fine. Just make sure that you're using the Java 11 version. Just that makes life easier for me. And then the final piece is I have a video also to walk you through GitLab as well as the handout. So I mean, like I said, it's kind of tricky. So I just kind of walk you through it. The main thing is you need to get all this done because GitLab is how you will be submitting your programming assignments. So if you don't get that hooked up, then you won't be able to submit your assignments. And if you don't submit your assignments, it's kind of hard for me to grade something that isn't there. Okay, the lessons tab is, I will try, before each class, there will be just kind of an overview. So there'll be a link to the slides, a link to the assignment, and then after the class, there'll be a link to the video for that class. So that's a tab you should be consulting fairly frequently. Tests and quizzes, this is going to be where the Friday quizzes show up. Okay, right now we don't have anything, but Friday morning there's going to be something showing up for you. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so are there any questions? I mean, please. I see a lot of stuff in the chat. Let's see.
Are the tests open book or closed or quizzes?
The quizzes are closed book because they're really just covering the stuff. As far as the tests go, I'm trying to with the online thing. I mean, normally when I teach this in class, I let you have like a gouge sheet where you know for a variety of reasons. That actually is also a useful tool because it kind of helps you organize the material. For online, what I'm thinking more in terms of is just having a time-sensitive programming problem for in lieu of a midterm. So that would be open book. I mean, in the sense that I would give you a problem and you wouldn't be able to solve. I mean, you might need to consult the book or some other resource to be able to get the tools to solve it, but you won't be able to get the answer to it. Whereas in the quizzes, the answers are basically in the book. And again, I'll leave it to your honor to abide by that. But yeah, it's this online thing is a challenge for a course like this. But again, the main object, there are two objectives that I have. Okay, one is that you get this object-oriented concept down. That's sort of the conceptual one. But the more practical one is that you have Java in your toolkit, so that if you have a situation where that's what's in front of you, then you can use Java to solve that problem. And there are some problems for which Java is really the best answer to that. There are others for which it isn't. I mean, I believe most of you have had JavaScript with Chris Darkin and your others. For those web-based types of things, Java is really not well suited. JavaScript is much better suited for those web-based things. For programs, for just regular old programs, Java is infinitely better than something like JavaScript. So, just match the tool to the task. There are many tasks for, if we're talking about things like a large-scale simulation, JavaScript is really a non-starter. Now, maybe as a front end, but if we're doing the programming heavy lifting, you want something like a Java or a C++ or something like that. Java is there are still some legacy programs that use C++, but Java is really the most popular and common object-oriented programming language.
Sir, for the quizzes, are they like a 10-minute window that starts 8 to 8:10, or is that like 8 to 9 o'clock window and you have 10 minutes once you start?
No, it'll be like the first. Probably I'll give you 15 minutes, but yeah, it is a timed one. But again, think it's just really basic stuff. I mean, not tricky, whatever. I mean, if you've done the reading, then it should be fine. Okay, so that's what I have for today. I really encourage you to start taking a look at the assignment. Again, Hello World is kind of the first thing. There are some things that you may not be familiar with that will be kind of things I will absolutely insist on, and that they have to do with things like putting things in named packages, the way that you set up your project. I mean, I'm going to be very fussy about that, and part of the reason for that is that I have, once you get connected with GitLab, I have scripts that will be sort of downloading your program so that I can grade them. And those scripts are going to make certain assumptions about how you have named your project. That is, and if you haven't named your project that, then it's gonna cause problems for me. So, and when it comes to grading your projects, you want to make things easy for me, because that puts me in a good mood, and you want me in a good mood if I'm grading your stuff. So. Okay, so that's what I have for today, and if there are no other questions, I will see you tomorrow, and okay, very good. See you then.